Hello there and welcome to TalkNowSA. You may have seen us before. If you haven't, we're glad you're here. It is the talk of the town. It is your city, it's your voice. I'm Chris Duel, joined by our TalkNowSA chief political correspondent, Sean Paul Kelley. How you doing, man?
I am very, very well. I'm excited to be here.
I am thrilled that you're here.
2014 season.
Yes.
Let's roll out the news, man.
Let's roll this thing, and we're going to get right to the news, but I want to say this because it's true.
Yes.
You and I spent a lot of time in news talk radio.
Yes.
And I can count on one hand people who are radio gold and therefore television or broadcast gold. The late, great Jimmy Parks Jr. was one of those guys. You are on that hand, and that's why it rocks that you were here. I appreciate it.
I'm always a pleasure and a privilege.
All right, San Antonio Express News, you can read all about it. The primary elections were yesterday and last night. Of course, there was early voting.
Patrick won.
A few surprises. I believe there's going to be a runoff. Patrick overwhelmingly got more votes than David Dewhurst, who's been in that position as lieutenant governor since 2003.
You mean the Republican version of Keith Olbermann is going to be our governor light?
If yesterday is any indicator, yes, that is true.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yes, that is true. And Donna Campbell is back. Donna Campbell wins big over Elisa Chan.
Well, duh.
Well,
I mean, she's so rabid. I actually have seen her in person, and she has one of those personalities where you're like, you're afraid she's gonna like go nuclear. It's just like she's gonna, and I mean like critical mass kind of just boom, just explode. You never know what's gonna happen. Oh, wow. I mean, not that Elisa Chan was Wentworth was a great senator. What was wrong with him? He was too moderate.
He was too moderate.
He actually wanted to do what was in the best interest of the state of Texas as opposed to what was in the best interest of the Republican Party.
And there you have it. There's my problem with politics on the left and on the right. Yeah. I think there are extremists in each party, and it's party politics. And there are such, especially now with Republicans, there's such obstructionism.
Yes.
It's like we want to stop anything Obama wants to do, period, because he's Obama. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be nice if you guys got together? And I posted on Facebook last night, John Cornyn wins big. He had a challenge from kind of a Tea Party freak boy. But John Cornyn in the Republican primary wins big to retain his Senate seat. He'll go to the general election in November. But John Cornyn thanked everybody, and then his big sign-off now is, let's keep Texas red.
Okay, let me tell you my problem with that. My problem with that is the Republican Party is putting the Republican Party first. And the thing is that when you keep electing people who say that government is the problem, government's going to become a problem. But my biggest issue is, I would ask the listeners and the watchers of the show right now, who would you rather deal with right now? Would you rather deal with the tax assessor collector office or the DMV or your cable company? Now tell me which one of those you would rather deal with. You'd rather go to the DMV.
Yes.
But the cable company is not government. It's free market. America, we have a problem. Please. Think about, this isn't free market anymore, it's monopoly. And the Republicans are just giving it all the way to them.
Let me ask you this, though, playing the devil's advocate. You just said the Republicans are only interested in Republican agenda items. How can you say the Democrats are not?
Oh, well, the Democrats are just as guilty of that, too. A pox on both their houses.
Yes.
Because the Democrats are all about victim identity politics. And the thing about identity politics is it's like herpes. It's the gift that keeps on giving, And it's just so bad for the country. It's like, look, people, put your economic interests first. That's called class, right? You put your class first. Get paid, get a good income, join a union, and these guys that are making $300 million, they want to have you talking about African American victimization or feminist victimization or whatever, instead of everyone being Americans and saying, no, dude, you're stealing from all of us. We're all victims.
And this is what the current class of, and you see the yard signs everywhere, which is either no socialism or no selfishness. And again, it's it's trying to frame an argument. It's like, well, if you disagree with me and I'm a Republican, you're a socialist.
Yeah.
And if I'm a Democrat...
Are you a Fabian socialist?
I don't...
Are you a Martinian socialist? Are you a Marxist socialist? That's the thing.
I'm an independent socialist.
They're idiots. They don't even know what socialism is.
I know.
Are you communist? Because communism is not socialism. It's different. But the American public is fundamentally has been so misled by its political elite. It is so infantilized now. It's just unbelievable.
And I see no hope. Do you see? I mean, America wants more episodes of Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
America doesn't want to get informed. America loves the little sound bites.
Yeah, but we're talking about it here.
It's Obamacare, and I either hate Obama or I don't, depending on my party and depending on the talking points I am fed, either by the Fox News channel or by MSNBC or by my party. Nobody wants to learn. First of all, nobody wants to compromise. You've covered that. Nobody wants to learn about how to make this place better. And I think more than ever, each side is demonizing the other side. I mean, each side wants to convince its constituents that the other side is destroying America and destroying you.
Yes.
And I think that's just going to totally...
To answer your question, I think that there's some real hope, and I think that hope is on the local level.
We're going to find out if the hope is on the local level, and I want to talk a little bit more about the local level and about Mayor Julian Castro and what's happening here in San Antonio. You know, it's interesting. I was at the State of the City address last week. In fact, I think Roel Vento, we have it right here. In fact, I was at the Silver Fox Studios table, and there's your program to the State of the City address. And I find it amazing. And again, you get into politics, and I celebrate the Castro family. I think it's an amazing story. Rosie Castro, single mom, raises these two boys, Joaquin and Julian Castro. They go to Jefferson High School. They use education as a tool to go to Stanford University, to go to Harvard Law School, and become who they are. If you bring up anything positive about the Castro brothers to Republicans, they want to pile on you for that. In the same way, John Cornyn, a Republican senator, went to my high school, Holmes High School. I celebrate him as well.
Yeah, I'm not real sure how the sound is here, but...
you're sounding a little different right now.
Probably so.
Roel says you sound great.
You sound a little hoarse.
I can't even have a serious conversation now. You know what? The Castro brothers are great. I mean, the thing is, that's the great thing about San Antonio, and why I returned to San Antonio from Austin, is because San Antonio fundamentally on the governmental level works. You asked me if I had any hope, and I know it's probably very difficult to take me seriously with this thing on my head right now, but I do have hope. I have real hope because we're here at the local level having this dialogue. And we're talking about serious things. And there are real innovations that are happening in technology that allow us to do this and allow somebody to completely crack a joke while having a real serious conversation. And that's something that's really lacking in American politics, is everybody takes everything too seriously.
Huge point.
Everybody is so wrapped up and everybody is so tense. Everybody is so worried about insulting somebody else that they can't be horse.
Well, and Ronald Reagan.
It's straight from the horse's mouth, man.
That is straight from the horse's mouth. Yes, indeed it is. Ronald Reagan, I think famously, and he is the Lord God and patron saint of all Republicans. You invoke his name, second only, and maybe he's moving ahead of Jesus when you invoke the name Ronald Reagan among Republicans. But famously, he would have fights on Capitol Hill with Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House, who was as liberal and Democrat as could be, and then they would go out and have dinner at the end of the day. I mean, it was, I can fight you on policy, but I'm not going to demonize you personally, and I'm not going to demonize your party and your philosophy so much to call you un-American or you're trying to destroy America. They had different points of view politically and philosophically, and at the end of the day could get along, be friends, have an ice cold beer, and respect one another.
And you know what? That happens in San Antonio. That happens in San Antonio politics. I mean, from wherever you are in the political spectrum in San Antonio,
aside from Elisa Chan, who was really kind of an outlier, I mean, just
Elisa
a really,
Chan.
really ugly outlier to
Yeah.
even say that. I mean, just the stuff that she believes. I found it really hard to believe that she actually believes that stuff. I mean, I'm like, who, 2014? Who are you, lady? What the, but her notwithstanding, the political class, the governing class, the elite class in San Antonio, they really all do socialize together, they work together, and part of that is that in running a city, you actually have to fill the potholes.
Yeah.
You actually have to make sure that the telephone wires get strung. You actually have to make sure that the street lights work. You have to do things, you have to govern.
Yes.
And again, this goes back to the GOP philosophy that government is bad. Well, when you continually elect people who say governing is bad, you're going to get bad government.
Huge point. We're going to talk more after the break. And Sean Paul brought up governing in San Antonio. I want to talk about Tommy Atkinson, who thought he could take on Nelson Wolff for county judge. That's like running against Julian Castro for mayor in this town. You're not going to win. And what he tried to pin on him was, you are not Democrat or Democratic enough. You are hanging out with Republicans, and what Sean Paul Kelley just described was the need for people to reach across party lines and get things done. We're going to talk about that as well. Stay right here at TalkNowSA if you're on this site. If you're on the Express News website, you can find us at TalkNowSA.com. You can also find us on Twitter at TalkNowSA. We'll read your tweets. We'll respond to you as well. And we're on Facebook, Facebook.com/TalkNowSA. He is Sean Paul Kelley,
You
our
heard it
chief.
from the horse's mouth.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. He's our chief political correspondent. I'm Chris Duel. More coming up on TalkNowSA. And that is 12 minutes exactly, and we will continue here. For people watching going, what was that break all about? As we roll forward, we are working on an arrangement with the San Antonio Express News to put the first 12 minutes of TalkNowSA on their site in addition to ours. And then after that, if people want more and they saw it on the San Antonio Express News website, they can come over to TalkNowSA. And so we're 12 minutes into the show, into minute number 13 with Sean Paul Kelley. Loved hearing it from the horse's mouth. That was outstanding.
You got it, I'm real serious about that. I'm not a comedian. I'm not,
You're a real human being.
Yeah,
Which a lot of, and you started with, I'm not a comedian. You are a real human being. Most politicians are not. Most media people, when they're on the air, are not. They act in a certain way.
Yeah.
And this is why you and I, in mainstream media, maybe didn't fit. The biggest reason you and I didn't fit is we weren't Republican enough for right-wing talk radio. I've been told that specifically.
No,
Chris,
that's not, well, yes.
Well, I've been told, Chris,
talk radio,
you are not Republican enough.
Yeah. But for the mainstream media, I would submit to you that the biggest problem is we are not corporatist enough. We don't toe the corporate, because Al Franken...
Now, corporations are people, you know that. Corporations are people. Marianne Williamson, who, by the way, I freaking love. If you can watch Marianne Williamson give a speech, and she's running for Congress, I think it's the 33rd district in California. She was giving a speech that I watched stream live on Sunday, and she made the point, if corporations are people, how come none of them are in jail?
Yeah.
Our jails are filled, especially with African Americans. We love to incarcerate our African Americans. If you're an African, I think it's like a 1 in 2. If you're an African American,
1 in 4.
1 in 4.
1 in 4.
It's something obscene.
Yes.
But if you're a corporation, you're probably okay. You want to break a few rules, especially if you're a bank. It's all good.
Yeah.
In fact, the more money you have, the more power you have, the more personhood.
Yes.
You're more than a person if you're a corporation. You're better than a person.
Yes.
But we'll call you a person for...
By the way, this episode is brought to you by Frost Bank.
Oh, well, there you go. See?
Frost, banking, investments, insurance. The reason I know that, I do the Spurs broadcast.
Yeah.
And one of the sponsors is Frost Bank. And the tagline, banking, investments, insurance. And to be honest, and I'd tell you if I did, I don't have a problem with Frost Bank.
You know what? I'll be real straight with you either. I as well.
Bank of America can burn in hell.
Yeah.
Bank of America,
you know what?
you are the scum of the earth. You burn in hell. If you work for Bank of America, swine, scumbags, scum of the earth. Frost Bank, I'm okay. Bank of America, burn in hell.
And you have a problem with Frost Bank, you pick up the phone, you get a human.
Imagine that.
And someone from here.
Isn't that one of their taglines? We're from here.
Yeah,
Frost Bank.
you're not calling halfway around the world. And look, I don't have any grudge against Indians having jobs. Yeah, I've been to India 3 times. I know they need the jobs. Jesus, I mean, the poverty there is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. But at the same time, hey, why don't you put some Americans to work?
It would be nice.
Pay them some good wages.
It's a huge
Don't
point.
you know? It's like the whole Walmart versus Costco. I won't go to Walmart. I will go to Costco. You know why? You know why Costco is more profitable right now than Walmart is?
They treat their employees
They
better.
pay their employees a living wage. You walk in there, within 90 days, you're making 40 grand.
I didn't know it was 40 grand.
It's right
Wow.
at 40 grand, 90
Wow.
days. And you know why they can afford to pay their workers a living wage like that?
Tell me.
Their CEO makes, his salary is $400,000 a year, and then he gets, if the company makes their profit targets, he gets a $3.5 million bonus. So he walks away with $4 million a year. Okay, the previous CEO kept it at $2 million a year, but they, in order to get, anyways. My point is, the Walton family are like leeches sucking Walmart dry and sucking as much money out of the people that work for Walmart as they can. And do you know who ends up having to pay for Walmart employees who don't have health insurance and stuff like that? Me and you.
The rest of us, yeah.
Yes, because Walmart won't pay their employees enough, which is why I will not shop at Walmart. Period. End of story.
And what you are suggesting, I think, is what we have to do. I think you say, what can we do about the Walmart thing? I think the only thing you can do is in your own circle,
Yes.
in your own life,
Yes.
in your own sphere of influence, you take a stand.
Go to Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Don't go to Whole Foods. Go to Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's chocolate-covered blueberries are like crack.
Word.
I would perform sexual favors for somebody. I mean, I would be like a crack
Wow.
whore.
I'm
just saying,
Oh.
they're so
Whoa.
good. If I am jonesing for them and you have them, you could probably get me to do some illicit things.
There's a guy across the street with a bag full right now.
I'm just saying, all right, get him over here. Get him over here and we'll do what I need to do for those chocolate-covered blueberries live on TalkNowSA. Well, no, and this is going to be a weird segue. This is going to be a weird segue, but this is the way my mind works. While you are choosing not to go to Walmart, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, and this is a huge issue for me, because I'm a Cowboys fan.
Sure.
I grew up a Cowboys fan.
I feel so sorry
watching
for you.
Tom
I know.
Landry,
Man.
my favorite
Orange
coach
Crush.
ever. Roger Staubach, my favorite athlete ever. Jerry Jones is the devil. Jerry Jones, and one of my analogies is it's an abusive relationship. Jerry Jones is a battering husband. He's beating you, and we as Cowboys fans are the wife who is being beaten. Jerry Jones slaps us around, but we love him because it's the Cowboys, and he goes, I'm never going to do it again, honey. I know I hit you last night.
Yeah.
I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
And we keep coming. We buy the jerseys, we buy the hats, we go to the games. It is bullshit. And you've got to stop that. And the way to stop it is you personally take a stand. We all now, because of Twitter and Facebook, we all now have a platform.
Yes.
You have a Facebook account, you have a Twitter account. Some of us have blogs. Someday we'll talk about, maybe even today on the show, Sean Paul Kelley with agonist.org, before everybody had a blog, was one of the pioneers in the blogosphere. But Dallas Cowboys fans need to, number one, don't pay him another dime. Stop spending all your, and talk about it.
Yeah.
Tweet about it. Yeah. And if you do get it, if someone gives you a ticket to go to a Cowboys game and you didn't pay for it, put a paper bag on your head and say, fire Jerry. Jerry Jones is the general manager.
Yeah.
He is obviously, since 1997, as a football general manager, he's 136 and 136. Percentage 500 since 1997, any other general manager would have been fired long ago.
My question is, when is he going to have his George Steinbrenner moment?
Maybe never.
I mean, because Steinbrenner did the same thing for
Yeah.
20 years with the Yankees. The same thing, and I'm a Yankees fan, and all you baseball people can go after yourselves because the Yankees are the best ever, okay? Just, sorry, end
Time
of story.
out, time. Where did you grew up in Houston, didn't you? Where'd you
No,
grow up?
I grew up here in San Antonio, but my
Why
dad
the
was
hell
a
are you a
Yankees,
Yankees fan?
My dad was a Yankees fan. I'm
Okay.
a second generation
I get
Mickey
that.
Man, all the whole. I mean, come on.
When you get it from dad.
Yeah.
Okay. No, but when I was growing up in San Antonio, going to Holmes High School, the Pittsburgh Steelers would be kicking the Cowboys' ass in the Super Bowl twice.
Yeah.
So I would see kids growing up in San Antonio, because they were front runners, wearing a Pittsburgh Steeler jersey.
No, you need to
and I
beat
would say,
those kids
"Dude,
up."
have you ever been to Pittsburgh, you piece of crap?
Yeah.
You were just an anti-Cowboy. It's like,
Yeah.
and in this town, you wear a Laker jersey because you want to be anti-Spur.
You deserve to be sodomized.
Exactly. You deserve to be sodomized. That's going to be our T-shirt. By the way, if you would like to win your Talk Now essay, you deserve to be sodomized
Let's
T-shirt.
talk about some news.
Third person to tweet us at Talk Now essay, we'll get you that T-shirt. No, it's some people just want to be contrarians. So I hate the Spurs. How could you possibly hate? What do you want? 4 championships and good guys like Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan and David Robinson? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I was
deserve to be
there.
sodomized.
I was there for the Memorial Day miracle.
my
I was
God.
there at that game. We had season tickets that season.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, you know what? If somebody hits a 3, we can win this thing. And out of the blue, listen, you have to understand, I could not stand Sean Elliott at the time because he, forever and a day choked.
We forget that.
He
We
forever
forget
and
that.
a day was always choking. And then he laid back, arced that ball up, and it sunk, and the Alamo Dome went wild. It was unbelievable. It was the loudest I had ever, and I've been to subsequent championships, there's no Spurs game that has ever been like that game because everybody there knew we were going, and we were going all the way, and we were going to win. There was no question.
That was the moment. That was the
and he
tipping
was
point
fighting
moment.
all of the kidney stuff and
Yes.
everything. It's huge.
Yes.
It's a fantastic story.
It's a great story.
Oh, yeah, that was
But-
a great day.
And that was Memorial Day 1999.
Yeah.
Spurs fans forget.
Yeah.
And yes, Sean Elliott and David Robinson.
Yes.
In key games, David Robinson was called by Jim Rome on Sports Talk Radio the Little Mermaid. We called him the Admiral, but because he would sink
Yeah.
in big moments,
Yeah.
he
Well,
was
you know
never
what?
called that again
You
after
know what?
1999.
Here's the
but
thing,
he was
yeah.
called the Little
Yeah.
Mermaid, and
Yeah.
people forget
Yeah,
that.
but David had to go up against Hakeem Abdul-Olajuwon.
Oh, yeah.
And come on. Olajuwon's moves were incredible. Those 2
Yes.
years, he was in the zone. Just like David and Sean got in the zone in 99.
Well, and a guy came to town named Tim Duncan.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I can't forget that.
You got to
No.
wonder.
There's the chemistry
Well,
going
and
on.
you don't have to
Yeah.
wonder. If Tim Duncan didn't come to town,
Yeah.
I don't think we win any of the championships.
I remember that season before watching Dominic Wilkins ball hog. It was horrible.
Dominique Wilkins was interviewed earlier this year in Atlanta by Bill Schoening,
Yeah.
and Dominique said, it's very funny, he said, I take a lot of credit for the Spurs' success.
Yeah, he should.
Because I was so bad that year, you guys got the #1 draft pick.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have gotten Tim Duncan
Yep.
without me. He acknowledges that.
Yeah.
A lot of politics we're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
All right, we're going
let's
to
go
get back
there.
into the news, but it's a little stream of consciousness.
Whatever.
It's San Antonio,
It
baby.
is. It's home.
First thing I want to talk about is, first of all, voter turnout in the primary. Guess what percent of registered voters voted in the primary Sean Paul Kelley?
19%.
You say 19%?
I say
The actual number, higher or lower, is 11.94%.
Good God.
Less than 12% of registered voters voted.
Wow.
Now, here's the
Wow.
breakdown. This is in a season where Democrats would like to think that they're becoming energized for Wendy Davis, maybe.
I have some things to say about that later.
Okay, the breakdown of Republicans to Democrats who voted in the primary yesterday and in early voting. A vast majority of people vote in early voting, including me. 59% Republican, 41% Democrat in the primary voting.
And how does that number compare with the previous non-primary presidential cycle year.
I don't have that number, but I do have this. I'm going to read you something from, and you know him, Jim Forsyth, the news director at 1200 WOAI. He wrote the takeaways today. He put this up on Facebook. I thought the guy's very brilliant. He said this, and it gives you a little bit of a comparison, at least for Wendy Davis. Despite all the claimed grassroots enthusiasm for Wendy Davis, 146,000 fewer votes were cast for her yesterday than were cast for Bill White in the 2010 governor primary in a non-presidential year. The grassroots are not itching to pull the lever for Davis the way they were for Ann Richards.
You know what?
In 1990.
Exactly, because she is not. Her campaign needs to go back and they need to look at what Ann Richards did to beat Clayton Williams, because I'm telling you, Greg Abbott is just like Clayton Williams. Greg Abbott will stick his foot in his mouth every chance he gets. What did he call? He called Texas south of Austin, North Mexico, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he said.
Yeah.
So Texas, Greg Abbott thinks that a third of the state should go back to Mexico. How do you feel about that? I'm real curious. Does that represent your Republican? I mean, that's like almost eugenicist views, you know? So if she would just shut up, let him try to stand up, because he can't. He doesn't stand for anything.
Okay, now that is not cool.
No. It's no. You know what? I'm happy to say that.
Well,
let me tell you why.
That is a cheap shot.
It is a cheap shot. But you know what's even more a cheap shot is that you're a guy who has a tragedy like that happen to you, and you get a $25 million settlement, and then when you become a part of state government, you create a law so that nobody can ever get the kind of settlement that you got. That's a cheap shot too.
Wow.
That's called kicking the ladder down behind you so nobody else can climb up. That is not American. That's not fundamentally fair. And so, yeah, that's a cheap shot what I said, but I stand by it. He doesn't stand for anything. He's just like Clayton Williams. He just wants to be governor.
He stands for suing Obama and suing the government. He's quite proud about the multiple lawsuits that he has brought against Obama.
Which has done what?
Spending Texas taxpayer money to fund his attempted lawsuits at stopping the president from his agenda.
Yeah, well,
because that's raw meat for the base. I'm Greg Abbott, and I hate Obama, and I will stop Obama. Please vote for me.
And if Wendy Davis would just back up and talk about what she's good at talking about and get her base energized. Don't stop talking about guns. Don't talk about God. Talk about reproductive rights in Texas. Talk about it. Talk about the fact that a woman who does not have the right to make her own reproductive decisions is fundamentally not a free human being. That's the bottom line, and that's all you have to say. If you do not have the right, because men, we have the right to get snip snip if we want, right? We have the right to do all kinds of things like that. We have the right to have our insurance pay for Viagra, for God's sakes. But but you can't talk about insurance paying for contraceptives. So if she would talk about that and talk about it's about human agency, it's about a woman being free from the dictates of what men tell them to do. If she would talk about that, she would energize her base and then let Greg Abbott run off with Ted Nugent and just be a complete blithering idiot, and she'll slide into the governor's mansion.
I want to talk to you about that. You brought it up, Greg Abbott making the appearance with Ted Nugent. Again, for his base, Ted Nugent is a rock star to your ultra right-wing conservatives. He hunts, he slams Obama, he's a rocker, cat scratch fever. I think to his base, Greg Abbott suffered no penalty for that. Everybody else pointed out some of the things he has said. He called President Obama a mongrel. He has admitted to having slept when he was a rocker with an underage girl. Therefore, he did, by definition, commit statutory rape. Have consensual, and you can't have consensual sex with a child by law and by definition. But no, the rest of the people, I think moderates and progressives freak out that he hung out with and embraced Ted Nugent. But for the people on the right, they don't care. In fact, they high-five him for it.
Yeah, I think Ted Nugent, I mean, I don't really, I think that I could care less about Ted Nugent. I could care less about what he thinks. But I think that she should allow Greg Abbott to go play with Ted Nugent in their little sandbox as much as they want, because I guarantee you Greg Abbott's going to say something stupid from interacting with Ted Nugent. And then she can pounce on him politically for that. That's my point. I don't, Ted Nugent, whatever, you know. I mean, I never really liked the guy's music either. I mean, you know, he has a couple good guitar licks. That's great. He's no Eddie Van Halen. I mean, come on.
Do you believe, and you just laid out a strategy for Wendy Davis, be more like Ann Richards, take your stand for women's reproductive rights.
Yeah.
Do you believe if she did, and certainly, again, given Jim Forsyth's analysis, given the sheer numbers of so many Republicans turning out in this primary statewide, do you believe there's any strategy that Wendy Davis could take to actually win in November?
At this point, it doesn't look good. That's not to say that I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, and these kind of races.
TJ Connolly does.
Man, and
we're
he's
get
the
him
guy
on
you
the
need
show.
to be talking to. Because,
TJ
man,
Connolly
I'm no
has
good with this
crystal
stuff.
ball.
I have never been. I shoot my mouth off. I'm great with that.
Yeah.
But the political analysis and there's
Christian Archer.
Yeah.
We've had him on the show. We'll get him. And again, we'll get into Nelson Wolff. Christian Archer, everything he touches seems to turn to gold. You don't mess with Christian Archer, and you don't, in this town, the two people you don't mess with are County Judge Nelson Wolff and now Mayor Julian Castro.
Yeah.
You cannot beat them, period. Tommy Atkinson, who is a good guy.
Yeah, what was he
and
thinking?
a straight, what were you thinking? And a straight shooter, and I love Tommy Atkinson, and don't get me started on toll roads. You scumbag street pirates, and Rick Perry, Mr. Scum of the Earth, getting in bed with a foreign consortium named Sintra Zachary. Thank you, Zachary. Sintra Zachary, to take existing roads that Texas taxpayers bought and paid for. We're going to take your roads now, and we're going to toll them at the enrichment of us. And screw you, taxpayers.
You know, I just moved back to San Antonio from Austin. And
Yes.
let me tell you the problem with Austin. Austin's biggest, most fundamental problem is traffic. It's the number one problem that everybody in Austin will complain about. Okay, and they will tell you immediately. The problem is that this consortium built a bunch of toll roads, literally to nowhere. They built roads where there was no congestion. They built roads
nothing out there.
where there were no problems. And they built those roads out there because Rick Perry's buddies owned the land that they wanted to develop. That was the point of all of that. So they want to do the same thing here in San Antonio. The thing is that what they should have been doing is they should have been expanding I-35. I-35, once you hit Onion Creek Parkway, is a joke. It's a parking lot. It's a parking lot almost all the way to Waco. You know, it's a parking lot at least to Georgetown, or you can take 130 and you can pay $20 for the privilege, right? I'm sorry. How much do we pay in gasoline taxes for roads in this country?
Way too much.
Yeah, and so you want to try that in San Antonio? I don't think that's going to fly. And they're trying to do something like that with this little trolley that they're trying to build downtown. I mean, they're saying that it will relieve congestion in downtown. There's no congestion in downtown San Antonio. They're making a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Why? Because that part of downtown San Antonio has historically been a dead zone. There's parking lots. It's where the Kmart was. Why do they want to put a trolley through there? Because people own property there and they want to try to develop it like the Pearl. They want to, I mean, San Antonians, think about this. Think the problems through from an urban planning point of view.
You talk about 130 and you talk about these toll roads that were built in the middle of nowhere. Like an idiot, about 2 weeks ago, I was flying back to San Antonio, flying into Austin. I saved money on a flight by flying out of Austin, and I heard somebody talking about, well, we took the toll road and we got to the Austin airport really quickly from San Antonio. So so someone says, instead of going left and hopping on 35, when you come out of the Austin airport, take a right and hop on 130. So I hop on 130 and the signs say, San Antonio this way on 130. And you can go 75, 80 miles, whatever the hell you want. So you can fly. And I keep following the signs to San Antonio. And I turn on my GPS, and my GPS doesn't even recognize the road. The GPS shows me out in the hill country dunes just doing what I'm doing. So I'm going, all right, San Antonio's this way, and then it ends at I-10, 30 miles outside of San Antonio.
Seguin.
Seguin.
Yes.
I was 30 miles out. I took the toll road at 85 miles an hour. I get to San Antonio, but I'm not.
Sucker.
I'm in freaking Seguin, 30 miles away from downtown. Now I got 30 more miles to drive.
Sucker.
And I paid for it.
Sucker.
I got totally hosed
Sucker.
on a toll road because I'm anti-toll road. I never took it before, but I thought, and my flight was 2 hours delayed. And I thought, I just want to get home.
I want to get home.
I'm going to get on the toll road. I'm going to go 85 miles an hour.
Broke down. You just want to,
Horse shit. Not to demean horses.
Hey, yes,
And we
exactly.
got horses
Identity
in.
politics.
Yes.
The horse, right?
But what got me on the toll road tangent, Tommy Atkinson, a good guy, a straight shooter, and when all these people were in bed with the toll roads, when Bill Thornton and all of those people were pro-toll roads, because a lot of money was going to be made by a lot of powerful people, one of the few guys who stood up against them was Tommy Atkinson.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a county commissioner. He decides to run against God, and in this town, God is either Judge Nelson Wolff or Mayor Julian Castro. If you run against God, you're going to lose. So Tommy Atkinson ran against God and got his ass kicked last night, as we all knew he would have. And you just said it, and my question was, what were you thinking? And they even interviewed him last night on television after he got his ass handed to him. And his whole point, at the beginning of the show, you talked about this, his whole point was, I'm a Democrat. Nelson Wolff calls himself a Democrat. He's not Democratic enough. He's in bed with a lot of Republicans making deals with Republicans.
Because he's running the county.
Yeah.
He's the county judge. He's running the county. He has to. Come on, people. Be smart. I mean, think about you're at the city level. Let me tell you something that's really wonderful about San Antonio. San Antonio is the most well-governed city in the state of Texas.
Imagine that.
You have absolutely no idea how well run this city is until you live in Austin, you live in Dallas, you live in Corpus, you live in Houston, you live in Fort Worth, or you live in El Paso. Okay? You have horrible traffic in all of those cities. There's no traffic in San Antonio. Okay?
You can be anywhere in 20 minutes.
You can be anywhere.
Roughly, you can be pretty much
anywhere in this city in 20. Do you know why San Antonio functions so well as a city? It's been a city 150 years longer than any other city in the state except for El Paso.
That's a huge point.
We have practice. We know what we're doing. There's a corporate body of knowledge in the city that goes back before the United States of America was even independent. San Antonio was a functioning city. Not a very big one, but it was a city. So it works. And so when Democrats get real upset at Nelson Wolff, get over it. When Republicans get upset at Nelson Wolff, get over it. It's about doing what's in the city's best interest. It's about what's in San Antonians' best interest. And it's a very well-run city. Is it as snazzy is it as weird as Austin? No. Is it as highfalutin as Dallas? No. Is it as rich as Houston? No. But it also doesn't have Houston's horrible weather. So, you take the good with the bad.
It's starting, though. You talk about Austin and the comparison to Austin. And I think Mayor Julian Castro is a big part of this. And he works very, very closely with Graham Weston of Rackspace. Graham Weston said in an address probably over a year ago by now, he calls it ASA. He said, we need the Austin San Antonio market. And part of this whole, as you know, the whole wanting to revitalize downtown and make downtown cool and bike accessible. And
which I was talking about 15 years ago, by the way.
Yes, you were.
I mean, we were talking about this on your radio show saying, why do we not have urban redevelopment downtown on the river? Why is this stuff not happening? Why do we not have housing in downtown San Antonio so people can walk around and they don't have to be in their cars?
And now it's happening.
Yes.
So we're never going to be Austin. And
Thank God.
Well, and you probably don't want to. But the cool things about Austin and the cool things that attract young tech people who, and a lot of people have said, and I think Graham Weston said this, if you're young and single and 20-something, you're probably going to go to Austin. If you're 30-something and married and have a kid or two you want to raise, San Antonio is a much better place. But the young 20-something tech people are going to Austin, or they're going to Silicon Valley, or they're going to wherever they go.
Yeah.
But I think little by little, and geekdom was a big part of this.
They're leaving Austin.
Why are they leaving Austin?
It's too hot, and it's not. It's
Well, we're
too
hotter than Austin.
It's no. I
hotter
understand
than-
that.
yeah.
It's too hot. The traffic is too bad. There's no rapid train. I mean, I've worked in the tech sector in Austin.
Yes.
I mean, those are the reasons. It's too hot. There's no rapid transit. The traffic is too horrible, and the city is too expensive, and it's fundamentally segregated. And they will tell you that. The people who have moved to Austin to work for tech jobs, they will leave Austin and they will go to tech jobs in Silicon Valley or Seattle and other places like that, whatever, because of those reasons.
You say Austin is fundamentally segregated in what way?
Well, everything is brown east of 35, and everything is Wonder Bread white west of 35.
Wow.
It's the most segregated city in the state. I mean, you're
Which
black
is crazy,
and
because you think of Austin
yeah.
as being progressive.
And everybody in Austin thinks, oh, I'm so cool, I'm so progressive, I think gay marriage is a wonderful thing, and da-da-da-da-da. But you know what? If you're black or Mexican American and you're in Austin, you're invisible. That's a fact.
Wow.
Yeah. So I love me some San Antonio, man.
Well, and this is what, and I want to move into some more election results in a second, but
Yeah.
and I love me some San Antonio too. And what really struck me a couple of years ago, when Mayor Julian Castro gave the keynote address at the Democratic National Convention, and obviously, and I think for the right reasons, Mayor Castro and Congressman Joaquin Castro have kind of become the darlings of the Democratic Party. And I think one of the reasons, I think the rest of the country is looking at the demographic shift, especially in the Southwest, but soon across America, where whitey isn't always going to be the majority. Well, in San Antonio, whitey's never been the majority.
And
Whitey had all the power up through when Rosie Castro was trying to become a political force. I mean, the majority were Mexican Americans, but whitey had the power. But I think the rest of America is trying to figure out, how do we handle this diversity? And guess what? In San Antonio, we've handled it for a long time.
And you know how San
and
Antonio
we
handles it?
kind of get along.
Yeah, you know how San Antonio has. If you will go back and you look at the election results since Henry Cisneros, you will see a pattern, and it's an unspoken, in my opinion, it's an unspoken gentleman's agreement in San Antonio. And remember, San Antonio is divided into, you have your Hispanic majority, and then you have the German club that's got all the money, right? Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the high society and the people who have the votes, right? Who not?
The Cavaliers.
Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. So there is a gentleman's agreement since Henry Cisneros has been mayor, and Henry B. Gonzalez was instrumental in this when he ran for early on getting LULAC, and you have to remember all of that history in San Antonio, right? Okay. Henry Cisneros was mayor for 2 terms. Then you had a white mayor for 2 terms. And then who'd you have after that? Ed Garza for 2 terms. And then you had Thornton, but Thornton blew up, so Peake came in.
Wow.
And
And,
then-
T.J.
and then-
Connolly
and
blew
then-
up Thornton,
Okay,
by the way.
Yes.
I'm
yes.
just saying.
And then after Peake, who'd you have? Castro's.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got an alternating agreement, right?
That is crazy. That is,
Think about it, though. It's not, I mean, the math is not exactly
the
right.
truth is out there.
But it's really there. And also, how does the county judgeship play into that, and who runs it? It's got to be a moderate who is county judge in order to keep everything smoothly running and the city working.
And he's a guy, Judge Nelson Wolff, who is officially a Democrat, yet his son Kevin Wolff is a Republican.
Yeah.
And he is criticized
Yeah.
for being too Republican as a Democrat.
So how'd Tommy Calvert do? Did he win?
Tommy Calvert seems to be in a runoff.
Okay,
He
good.
just
Good.
Deborah Guerrero with 26.3% of the vote, Tommy Calvert 25.8%. I love me some Tommy
Yeah,
Calvert
I like
Jr.
Tommy. Tommy's a good guy.
We're going to have to get him.
I mean, it's personal, just my personal interactions with him. I mean, I don't really know any policies that he would. I generally vote policy in my own interest, but I mean, he's a nice guy.
Well, I vote policy, and I also vote. I think I can tell, and you can tell, and we've interviewed Tommy Calvert Jr. many times on the radio. He's a good human being.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
he
mean,
is.
there may be.
There aren't many of those.
No, they're not.
I mean, even in these down ballot races, there
Right.
aren't many human beings.
No, there's.
How about the district attorney race?
Now this was huge, and San Antonio Express News it should have maybe been a banner headline: 50 votes out of 40,000 votes cast. Nico LaHood has 50 votes more than Therese Hunsinger. 50. It was 20,410 to 20,360. He beat her by 50 votes out of 40,000 plus votes cast. I'm shocked because I think Nico is a rock star. Nico kind of gave Susan Reed a run for her money in the last election. She was able to slime him because he had the drug conviction in his past. But when he finally, and he should have done it from the outset, when he finally owned it and said, yes, this is who I am and this is who I was, and look at how I've changed my life. And there's a part of the Nico LaHood narrative that nobody talks about, and this is why I think he'd be a very, very interesting district attorney. He had a brother who was murdered, and Jimmy Parks Jr. knows this family very, very well. On so many levels, Nico LaHood, and his father is a judge. On so many levels, I think Nico LaHood is very, very intriguing. He's a martial arts master. He's a man of a lot of integrity. Tim Duncan's good. Tim Duncan did, and Vanessa Macias flipped out on Facebook because they're being called robocalls. And Vanessa Macias, our good friend, and I love Vanessa, but I saw her on Facebook today attacking a Ken's 5 reporter. What else are you going to call him? Tim Duncan recorded phone calls that the Nico LaHood campaign yesterday, day of the election, were sending out as robocalls.
Sure.
Saying, hi, I'm Tim Duncan.
Vote
And
for Nico.
I don't normally do this, but Nico's my good friend. I've known him for 19 years. I trust my kids with him. You
What?
can trust him as district attorney.
Yeah.
I think it's a robocall.
Yeah. It is a robocall.
But to me, all right.
So what?
It's
That's
Nico
politics.
LaHood. He's a rock star. People who get to know him tend to love him. Oh, by the way, Tim Duncan loves him, and he almost loses to Therese Hunsinger by 50 votes. I mean, if I'm her, I think you got to spend money for a recount. If it's 50 votes out of 40,000, if I'm Therese, I'm spending the cash for a recount.
Yeah.
Why do you think it was so close?
I am. Roel Vento just asked us, why do you think it was so? I'm shocked that it is so. My only guess is that Democrats are still gun shy because Susan Reed was able to slime him about the drug conviction earlier in his youth. And they're afraid that's going to come back to haunt him. What do you think, Roel?
I think that people believe that she may be the only way to beat Susan Reed because she's not a convicted criminal.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Now, do they hear you across the stream? Probably, because we hear you right here.
No, you'll have to pick that up.
All right, let me, Roel Vento, then we're going to get your opinion, Sean Paul Kelley. Roel Vento says, and this is his studio, Silver Fox Studios, he's like, Nelson Wolff is the god of Bexar County. Julian Castro is the god of the city of San Antonio. The god of media in San Antonio and Silver Fox Studios is Roel Vento. I'm just saying. He says that the Democratic thinking was that because Therese Hunsinger does not have a criminal record, and given her experience as a prosecutor, that she would be the one person who would have a chance to beat Susan Reed. Well, I'm amazed at the level of people in this town, and on the legal side, people at the courthouse have it out for Susan Reed. I think Susan Reed's very vulnerable. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay, so some full disclosure, okay? Mike LaHood was a very good friend of mine.
Wow.
And
tell us, for people who don't know,
okay, all right.
Tell us a little bit about Mike LaHood and his death.
Let me, I need to compose myself
Okay.
because this is actually a fairly emotional story
See,
for me.
I never knew that about you. And again, as you think about this for a moment, and you can tell or not tell us as much as you want.
Yeah.
Jimmy Parks Jr., who is no longer with us, is very close to that family.
Yeah.
Jimmy knew, as they were growing up, knew Mike and Nico. And Jimmy always talked about how amazing the whole family is.
God, Mike was fantastic.
Yeah.
Mike was, I mean, Mike was the guy that everybody wanted to hang out with Mike. Mike was so alive, and he had just, he was such a beautiful, wonderful person. He was fun. He was funny. He was great to hang out with. He was a great friend. He was always there for you if you needed something. You had a problem, he would help you. He would talk, he'd listen. I mean, he was just fundamentally on every level a beautiful human being. I mean, he really was. I got the call one morning from a buddy of mine, David, that Mike had been murdered the night before. And I didn't. I'm a Democrat, and I have some very serious convictions about the death penalty. And I don't know if you know, but I'm going to tell you the whole story because it needs to be full disclosure, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, the guy that pulled the trigger that killed Mike in cold blood.
And was this at Maggie's? Was this?
No, this was in Mike's front. This was in Mike's driveway.
In his driveway.
This was in his driveway.
Okay. So was it a carjacking? What was the?
These guys were their own little crime wave. They had killed somebody the night before. They had done a carjacking or something or whatever. I'm not sure what the whole story is. I've heard several different iterations of it. Anyways, we post trial. Okay, the guy who pulled the trigger was executed. Okay.
Okay.
Got the death penalty and got it. I mean, he's dead. He's gone. Okay. The guy who was up there with him while he was pulling the trigger, right, turned state's evidence on the trigger guy and the guy who was driving the car, right? There were three of them.
Okay.
Okay? All right? Now, I have to tell you the whole story as you need their moving parts. Okay? And this guy turned, the guy, not the guy in the car, the guy who was up there with the guy who killed Mike, okay, turned state's evidence so he wouldn't get the death penalty.
Okay.
So he's Huntsville for life. No parole, the whole whatever, all right? Okay. He also turned on the guy in the car so that the prosecutors could give the guy in the car the death penalty. Right?
Yeah.
Okay? And we're in Texas, and you know what happens when you get the death penalty. You die. Mm-hmm. Right? Well, I blog, and I have a big mouth, and I threw it out there. I said, you know, I had a friend that was murdered, and you know, I would oppose the death penalty for the people who, you know, who murdered him.
Yeah.
You know, I would. That's who I am. So there's bad blood between the LaHood family and I, unfortunately. I'm sorry that it's there. They probably don't like me because the guy, Kenneth Foster, who was in the car, who did not, he was not involved directly in the murder of Mike. Based on a technicality in Texas law, called the law of parties, believe that's what it's called, they put him up for the death penalty. Somehow his attorney got me involved, and I lobbied for him. I went and talked to the Texas Corrections Commission, the parole, the clemency board, whatever. Long story short, in Rick Perry's tenure as governor, do you know how many people have had their death sentence commuted?
I would guess not too many.
1.
Wow.
Do you know who that is? Kenneth Foster Jr., the guy who was in the car.
Wow.
So it's probably best if I don't say anything about Nico LaHood.
Okay.
I wish him all the best. I wish him all the best.
Yeah.
And the family, I love them. And I loved Mike and I adored Mike.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry that it had to go down like this.
Yeah.
They have their principles and I have mine. And I wish that I wish they could have respected and the friends that Mike and I shared, because they're no longer friends of mine. They all disown me. You know, I mean, it was a horrible thing for me to go through.
Yeah.
But I am opposed to the death penalty, especially for the guy who wasn't even involved. And it's a principle I had to stand on for whatever. So probably I make a real long story, God, dramatic. Oh,
Well,
you know,
no, but I love that you shared the story.
Full disclosure, I probably really shouldn't talk about Nico.
But a couple of things.
Sure.
Number one, I love that you just told that story. You could have just shut it down and said, you know, I'd rather not talk about that. Or you could have moved on. I mean, we weren't going to stay on Nico LaHood's race for that long. But you were. But I also find this interesting, and it's a human condition and a human drama, and it's almost Shakespearean that you loved Mike as a friend.
Yeah.
Obviously, they loved him as a brother and as a son.
Of course. I watched his father weep giving his eulogy.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. I mean,
And I still get, you know,
Yeah. I can't. I mean, personally, I had a brother killed in a plane crash. He was a fighter pilot, and so I know what it's like to lose someone suddenly, and I know at the time that my brother was killed in the plane crash, there was a design flaw in the F-101. It was a McDonnell Douglas aircraft. McDonnell Douglas knew about it. The Air Force knew about it, but it would have cost millions and millions of dollars to fix the problem when they knew that if we lose one pilot a year, because it happens like every 100,000 takeoffs, that's okay.
Yeah.
And it happened like once a year, an F-101 on takeoff, this happened, and the pilot died, and there was a guy in the back seat, a navigator, who died as well. So I mean, I know the anger that I felt for a company, which are people, McDonnell Douglas.
Exactly.
And in this, and I was at the Air Force Academy at the time, wanting to be a pilot. People say, Chris, why'd you leave the Air Force Academy? I became a little disillusioned after I found out.
I have always wondered.
Yeah,
now this is some good context.
After I found out that there were Air Force. Oh, and you know what? They also, when my brother's plane crashed, the official accident report, stamped as it was for every previous pilot who was killed, pilot error. Pilot must have made a mistake on takeoff.
Of course.
The Air Force knew, McDonnell Douglas knew, they had no chance, but we got to keep these airplanes flying.
Yeah.
So I was at the Air Force Academy. A friend of my brother's saw not only the official accident report, but the
unofficial accident.
Secret accident report, leaked it to his wife. And we found out what the truth was. And that's when I said, I love you, but I don't think I want to work for you at this point. But I've always thought about this. The sadness that I and my family felt, and the horror to lose somebody who told his wife, I'll be home for lunch, and he was 32 years old and he's not coming home again. I've always wondered, what would it be like to have a loved one murdered? I mean, that's got to multiply that. Someone consciously took my brother's life, if they consciously took it. So, but I still, though, I understand, and I am, and this is where you can't pigeonhole me. I am, for certain people, I am pro-death penalty. Timothy McVeigh, you blew up the Murrah building. If it can't be beyond a shadow of a doubt. If we, beyond all doubt, prove that you consciously and heinously killed men, women, and/or children,
and you know what? That's a debate we can have.
That's a great debate.
You and I, we can have that real debate on, beyond a reasonable doubt, this person literally pulled the trigger.
Yes.
Okay. But Kenneth Foster was in the car.
I see that.
I mean,
no,
that's
I see that.
You know, so anyways,
I see that.
The only thing
Kenneth Foster deserves to be locked away forever.
Forever.
Does he deserve to be
and
killed?
You know, all the work that I did for that guy, Kenneth Foster, he's a scumbag. He never said thank you.
Wow.
Out of all the crap that I had to go through in my life for that principle, which I would do again, no question about it. That guy never said thank you. His father called me and said thank you, but he never said thank you. I never got a letter from Huntsville saying, thank you, dude. I appreciate what you did. Because I'm the only person that Rick Perry never pulled the...
A man lives and breathes right now.
I don't think it has anything to do with what I did. Well, I really don't.
You fought for it.
I did.
And in the scheme of things, who's to say that if you didn't do what you did, that he'd be here?
Maybe. I don't know.
This is why I love this show.
We really went off on
wow. This discussion.
How'd you do that, man?
This ain't happening in a 6-minute segment on the radio before you got to cut to commercial.
No.
This is not happening on local television. Wow. We're near the top of the hour. So we're going to move on from Nico LaHood. Now, as this race heats up, you know we're going to be talking. Now that it's going to be Nico versus Susan Reed between now and November, you know we're talking more.
Yeah.
So
just have TJ Connolly come in.
Have you done a show in all
No,
your radio days with
he
TJ?
and I, we've traded messages on Facebook. We need to do that. That would be great to be on the air with him.
TJ Connolly is a guy who, first of all, he's brilliant. Secondly, he's a political junkie.
Yeah.
And he's been a political. He's run campaigns. He's kind of shadow run campaigns, and I won't get into specifics right now because we're near the end of the show, but maybe we'll get into them with him. TJ Connolly paid a price in a big way, and I would say in ways that people will never fully comprehend. He took on the powers that be in this city. He took on County Judge Nelson Wolff. He took on District Attorney Susan Reed, and he found out, and we'll have him on the show someday and see how much he wants to talk about this. He paid a huge price. I mean, it was demonstrated to him what can happen when you go after the power elite in this town.
Yeah, definitely.
Very interesting. All right, we are at the top of the hour. That was a quick hour.
It was good.
Wow. And it got way, way intense.
Yeah.
The final 15 minutes.
How'd you do that?
He is Sean Paul Kelley. He is so much. We didn't get it. You're dating now, by the way, ladies. Again, I said it earlier, he's a single man, very attractive, very brilliant.
We got a dating show here next week.
Is there a dating show next week?
God.
Let's get Sean Paul Kelley.
Stop.
3 bachelorettes.
Oh, no.
Jim Lang died last week. The host of the dating game, Jim Lang, is dead.
Oh, man.
I could be the new Jim Lang.
There you go.
Or Chuck Woolery.
There you go,
I
yeah.
would
I know a beautiful girl that was a golden pony head.
Have the bachelorettes wear pony heads. There you go.
If you didn't hear it, Roel knows a beautiful woman looking for a golden pony head, as long as she's not looking for a golden shower. That's all.
On that note,
On
bye-bye.
We want to thank Tanya McMeans for producing the show. We want to thank Roel Vento and Silver Fox Studios and Silver Fox Media. Thanks, as always, to Sean Paul Kelley. We got some exciting stuff coming up in future episodes with Sean Paul Kelley, who, among other things, travels the globe.
Yeah.
Didn't even get into Ukraine with you, damn it. We got to do this.
This will be going on next week, so I'll come back next week.
We'll do it again.
I mean, your show, you got to invite me, but
It's your show too. You're chief political
okay,
correspondent.
I'll be next week.
And a horse head wearing.
There you go.
Bachelor.
Yes, straight from the horse's mouth.
The Bachelor starring Sean Paul Kelley.
No.
That would be the greatest Bachelor.
Oh my
ever.
God, that would be horrible.
Imagine
me on TV, on
Imagine the
national
political
TV. No,
debates you'd have while going on dates with these women.
Yeah.
You need to be the next Bachelor.
No.
Yes.
Oh God. No.
ABC, get on it. We are out of here. Thanks for watching. It is TalkNowSA at TalkNowSA.com. Connect with us on Facebook /TalkNowSA or on Twitter at TalkNowSA. We always want to make the show for you. It is your city, your voice. You want to be a part of the show. You have some ideas for the show. We're open. It's your show. Thanks so much. We're out of here. Bye.